Good evening to you all, and welcome to Revelation chapter 9. There is a moment after you've seen the patterns, after you felt the truth, after your perception has shifted, after you realize there is still more within you, where the journey goes deeper, not outward, inward. Because everything up to this point has been external patterns breaking, emotional shifts, and perception changing. But now, we enter the inner realm of the mind itself, the place where thoughts are formed, where fears are hidden, and patterns are rooted. This is not surface level anymore. This is internal confrontation. Chapter 9 is where what was hidden becomes visible. What was suppressed begins to rise. And what was controlling you unconsciously is now revealed. And this is why it can feel intense. Because you are no longer dealing with what is outside of you. You are facing what has been within you all along. This is the stage where illusions are exposed at their root, where inner torment is understood, and unconscious patterns come to the surface, not to destroy you, but to free you. Because what you cannot see, you cannot transform. And what you refuse to face will continue to control you. So before we step in, understand this. This chapter is not about punishment. It is about revelation of the inner world. A deeper unveiling of thoughts, of fears, of internal patterns that have been operating beneath your awareness. And as intense as it may feel, it is necessary. Because this is where the mind is exposed, where the illusion loses its power and true freedom begins. What you are about to see is not something outside of you. It is something within you, waiting to be revealed. And once it is revealed, it can no longer control you the same way. Revelation 9 verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven onto the earth, and to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. Fifth angel sounded. A deeper level of transformation begins. Star falling from heaven. A guiding force now entering your lived experience. Giving the key. Authority or access is granted. Bottomless pit, the abyss, the deep subconscious or the hidden mind. Key to the pit is the ability to unlock what was previously hidden. The previous chapter showed patterns breaking, emotions shifting, and perception changing. Now, we go deeper than all of that. This is not about behavior. emotions, or perception. This is about the root of your inner world. The bottomless pit represents suppressed thoughts, hidden fears, and unconscious patterns. These are things that influence you, shape your reactions, and operate without you fully seeing them. Now, access is given. What this reveals: this is not random. This is intentional exposure. When you reach a certain level of awareness, you are no longer just seeing surface patterns. You begin to access the root. A star falling from heaven. This is similar to before, but deeper now. This star represents a form of awareness now descending into your inner world, not guiding externally, revealing internally, giving the key. Nothing is opened without permission. This means you are now ready to see what was hidden, not forced, allowed. The bottomless pit. This is not a physical place. It is the depth of the subconscious mind. Bottomless means layered, deep, not easily understood at first. This includes fears you didn't fully face, patterns you didn't fully understand, and beliefs formed beneath awareness. Relationship example. After everything, you saw the pattern. You felt the pain. You changed your behavior. Now, you go deeper. You start asking, why do I attract this kind of relationships? Why do I stay so long? Why do I ignore my own needs? The key is given. You realize this is not just about them. There is something within me I need to understand. The abyss opens. Now you begin to see fear of abandonment, the need for validation, and patterns formed earlier in life. Things you didn't fully notice before now come into awareness. In career, after changing direction, making decisions, and shifting your path, now you go deeper. You ask, why was I chasing this in the first place? Why did I stay in something that didn't fulfill me? What has been driving my choices? The key is given. You realize this is not just about the job. It's about what was driving me internally. The abyss opens. Now you begin to see fear of failure, the need for security, and external validation, and patterns that influenced your decisions now revealed. In religion, after questioning, shifting perspective, and letting go of fear, now you go deeper. You ask, why did I believe this so strongly? Where did this fear come from? What shaped my understanding? The key is given. You realize this is not just about doctrine. It's about what formed my belief system. The abyss opens. Now you begin to see conditioning, fear-based teachings, and early influences. Things that shaped your spiritual understanding now brought to light. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals true transformation requires going into the subconscious, not just changing behavior or shifting emotions, but understanding the root. There comes a moment when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is within me that I have not yet seen? What was once hidden, suppressed, and operating silently is now accessible, visible, and ready to be understood. Not to overwhelm you, but to free you. Because once you see the root, it no longer has the same power over you. Verse 2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. Opened the bottomless pit. The subconscious is now accessed. Smoke rising, confusion, distortion, and unclear thoughts emerging. Great furnace, intense internal processing. Sun darkened. Conscious clarity becomes clouded. Air darkened. Thought patterns become affected. The previous verse showed access was given. Now, what was hidden begins to come up. This is important. When you open the subconscious, everything inside doesn't come up clearly at first. It comes up as confusion, mixed thoughts, and emotional intensity. What this reveals, this is not regression. This is exposure. When suppressed patterns surface, they don't appear organized. They appear chaotic. Smoke from the pit. Smoke represents lack of clarity. This means you are seeing things, but not fully clearly yet. You may feel overwhelmed, unsure, and mentally foggy. Great furnace. This represents intense internal processing. This is not light reflection. This is deep work. You are processing patterns, confronting thoughts, and making sense of what's coming up. Sun and air darkened. Sun, clarity, becomes temporarily reduced. Air, thoughts, becomes clouded. So this becomes, you don't feel as clear as before. And that can feel uncomfortable because you were just in clarity. Now, it feels like things are unclear again. The hard truth. Before this moment, you thought clarity meant everything stays clear. After this moment, you realize clarity can bring things up that need to be processed. Relationship example. After realizing the truth, letting go, and processing emotions, now everything starts coming up. You begin to feel memories resurfacing, confusion about certain moments, and mixed emotions. You are like, why am I thinking about this again? I thought I was over this. Why is this coming back up? The smoke. You may feel mentally foggy, emotionally triggered, and unsure how to process it all. It's not clean clarity yet. The furnace. This is where you process deeply. You confront what you avoided. You begin to understand patterns more fully. Darkened clarity. You may feel, I was so clear. Now I feel confused again. But the truth is, you are going deeper, not backward. In career, after deciding to leave or shift, feeling clear about your path, now doubt and thoughts come up. You think, did I make the right decision? What if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? The smoke. Your thoughts feel scattered, unclear, and overwhelming. The furnace. You are now processing your fears, confronting limiting beliefs, and understanding what's been driving you. Darkened clarity. Even though you were clear before, now it feels uncertain. Religion example. After shifting beliefs, seeing differently, and letting go of fear, now everything starts to feel unclear. You are like, what is actually true now? What do I believe? What if I misunderstood everything? The smoke. Your understanding feels cloudy, uncertain, and in transition. The furnace. You are reprocessing scripture, re-evaluating teachings, and rebuilding understanding. Darkened clarity. You may feel, I used to feel so sure. Now I feel uncertain. But in reality, you are moving from borrowed clarity to real understanding. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals where the subconscious is opened, clarity is temporarily disrupted, so deeper truth can emerge. Sometimes, before things become clear, they become unclear. not because you are losing understanding, but because you are going deeper into it. What is rising may not look clear, may not feel comfortable, may not make sense immediately, but it is necessary, because what was hidden must be seen before it can be transformed. And even if it feels like things are getting unclear, the truth is you are seeing more than you did before. Verse 3. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Came out of the smoke, emerging from confusion or the subconscious. Locusts, repetitive consuming thoughts or patterns upon the earth, entering your lived experience, giving power, now influencing your actions and reactions. Scorpions, painful, triggering, emotionally sharp responses. Verse 2 showed confusion rising from the subconscious. Now, that confusion takes form. What was hidden, unclear, and beneath awareness now becomes active patterns in your mind and life. What this reveals: this is not random. This is exposure turning into awareness. When suppressed patterns rise, they don't just sit there, they begin to move. Locusts. Locusts represents consuming repetitive patterns. They show up repeatedly, affect your thoughts, and influence your behavior. This can look like overthinking, intrusive thoughts, and emotional triggers. They come in waves. Upon the earth. This means they don't stay in your mind. They show up in your life, in how you respond, in how you feel, and in how you act. Given power, they feel strong, not because they are permanent, but because they are now visible and active. Like scorpions. Scorpions represent sharp, painful emotional reactions. This means these patterns trigger you. You may feel sudden emotional reactions, sensitivity, and discomfort. The hard truth: before this moment, these patterns were hidden. After this moment, you feel them clearly and they seem intense. Relationship example. After everything surfaced, you process emotions. After confusion came up, now you notice your triggers clearly. You might overthink what happened, replay conversations, and feel sudden emotional reactions. The locust. This looks like, why did they do that? Was it my fault? Did I miss something? Thoughts repeating. The sting. You feel sudden hurt, emotional spikes, and sensitivity, Even small reminders trigger something deeper. In real life, you may react differently. You may withdraw. You may feel overwhelmed at times because what was hidden is now active. In career, after making a decision, starting a shift, and processing emotions, now your inner patterns become loud. You think, what if I fail? What if this doesn't work? What if I made the wrong move? The locust, repetitive doubt, overthinking decisions, and questioning yourself. The sting, you feel anxiety, pressure, and fear of uncertainty. In real life, there is hesitation, second guessing, and emotional reactions to situations. These patterns are now visible. Religion example. After shifting beliefs, letting go of fear, and gaining clarity, now old patterns try to reappear. You may think, what if I'm wrong? What if I misunderstood everything? What if there are consequences? The locus, repetitive fear-based thoughts, old conditioning resurfacing, questioning your new understanding. The sting, you feel fear, uncertainty, and emotional discomfort. In real life, you have moments of doubt, feeling pulled back to old thinking and internal conflict because the old patterns are now visible. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals what was hidden becomes active so it can be fully seen and addressed. Not to control you, but to reveal itself. Sometimes, before something leaves your life, it becomes more visible, not because it is stronger, but because you are seeing it clearly. What is rising? What is repeating? What is triggering you is not there to overwhelm you. It is there to show you what has been within you all along. And once you see it, you are no longer controlled by it in the same way. Verse 4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Commanded them. Boundaries are set. Not hurt grass or trees. Cannot affect what is alive, growing, and aligned. Only those without the seal. Only affect unaligned or unaware areas. Seal in the forehead. Awareness, understanding, and clarity in the mind. Verse 3 showed patterns becoming active. Now you learn something very important. They are not as powerful as they seem. These patterns, thoughts, triggers, and emotional reactions have limits. What this reveals, this is not about being overwhelmed. This is about becoming aware of what these patterns can and cannot do. When awareness is present, patterns cannot control you fully. They can only affect what is still unconscious. Seal in the forehead. The forehead represents the mind or awareness. The seal represents clarity, truth, and understanding. So this becomes where you are aware, you are protected. Cannot hurt grass or trees. This represents what is alive and aligned within you. This includes your growth, your clarity, and your transformation. So this means your growth cannot be undone by these patterns. Only those without the seal. This means these patterns only affect what you haven't fully seen yet. Not everything, only the areas still in unconsciousness. The hard truth. Before this moment, it feels like everything is being affected. After this moment, you realize only certain parts of you are being triggered. Relationship example. After triggers rise, emotions surface, and thoughts repeat. Now you begin to notice something different. You are like, I feel triggered, but I also see it. This hurts, but I understand what's happening. The seal in action. You recognize this is a pattern. This is not the full truth. This is something I'm processing. What it cannot touch. Even though you feel it, your growth is still intact. You don't go back to the relationship. You don't lose your clarity or forget what you've realized. What it can touch. It may still affect emotional reactions, moments of doubt, and certain memories, but not your core understanding. In career, after stepping into change and processing emotions, now doubt shows up, but differently. You are like, I feel uncertain, but I know why I made this decision. I'm nervous, but I'm not going back. The seal in action. You recognize this is fear speaking. This is old thinking. What it cannot touch. Even with doubt, you don't abandon your path. You don't go back to settling. You don't forget your clarity or lose your direction. What it can touch. It may affect your confidence at times, affect your emotions in the moment, but not your decision. Religion example. After shifting beliefs and gaining clarity, now old thoughts may try to return. You think, what if I'm wrong? But now you see it. The seal in action. You recognize this is old conditioning. This is fear-based thinking. What it cannot touch. Even when the thought appears, you don't go back to fear. You don't return to old beliefs. You don't lose your understanding or feel controlled by it. What it can touch. It may still cross your mind and create brief discomfort, but it doesn't define you anymore. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals awareness creates boundaries. Not everything within you is affected equally. What is seen, what is understood, is no longer controlled the same way. There is a difference between feeling something and being controlled by it. What is rising? What is triggering you? What is repeating is not touching all of you. Only the parts you have not fully seen yet. Because once something is seen clearly, it loses its power to control you. And that means even in the midst of the process, you are already free in ways you don't fully realize yet. Verse 5. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. Not kill them, meaning cannot destroy your true self. Tormented is intense emotional and mental discomfort. 5 months, a limited defined period, temporary process. Scorpion sting, sharp, sudden, triggering pain. Verse 4 showed these patterns have limits. Now you learn something even more important. They are temporary. What this reveals, this is not permanent suffering. This is a process of exposure and release. When hidden patterns surface, they may feel intense, but they are not meant to stay. They should not kill them. Nothing happening here can destroy who you truly are. No matter how intense it feels, your identity, your awareness, and your growth remain intact. Tormented. This represents internal discomfort. You may experience emotional intensity, mental pressure, and repeated thoughts. It feels real. 5 months. It has a limit. It will not last forever or define your entire journey. It is a phase. Scorpion sting. This represents sharp, sudden emotional triggers. This is not constant pain. It comes in waves. You may feel sudden reminders, emotional spikes, and moments of discomfort. Then it passes. The hard truth. Before this moment, it feels like this will last forever. After this moment, you realize it is temporary, even if intense. Relationship example. After the realization, the emotional processing, and the triggers becoming visible, now you feel waves. Some days you feel okay. You feel clear. Other days, memories hit. Emotions rise suddenly. This thing. You may feel sudden sadness, missing them unexpectedly, and replaying moments. But here is the truth. Even in those moments, you don't go back. You don't return to the relationship or lose your clarity. The time limit. Over time, the waves lessen. The intensity fades. The triggers lose strength. It doesn't stay the same. In career, after making a shift and stepping into something new, now you feel the pressure of transition. You may experience moments of doubt, adjusting to new challenges and uncertainty. This thing, you think, what if I made the wrong decision? This feels uncomfortable. But here is the truth. Even with discomfort, you don't go back to settling. The time limit. As you continue, confidence builds. Clarity strengthens. The discomfort fades. It stabilizes. Religion example. After shifting beliefs and gaining clarity, now you go through an adjustment period. You may feel moments of uncertainty, old thoughts resurfacing, and questioning your understanding. This thing, you think, what if I misunderstood? This feels different. But here's the truth. Even in those moments, you don't return to fear. The time limit. Over time, your understanding deepens. Your confidence grows. Your clarity stabilizes. It becomes natural. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation can feel intense, but it is temporary and purposeful. Not everything you feel is meant to stay. Some things are felt, processed, and released. What feels intense now? What feels uncomfortable? What feels like it keeps coming back is not here to stay. It is here to pass through you. And even though it may feel sharp, like a sudden sting, it does not define you. It does not last forever. It does not destroy you. It reveals, processes, releases, and then it fades. Verse 6. And in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Seek death. Desire for the process to end or escape discomfort. Shall not find it. Cannot exit the process prematurely. Desire to die. Wanting the feeling, thoughts, and pressure to stop. Death fleeing. The process continues despite the desire to escape. Verse 5 shows the process is intense but temporary. Now you see how people respond to that intensity. When discomfort becomes strong, the natural reaction is to want it to stop immediately. What this reveals, this is not weakness. This is resistance to transformation. When deep patterns are being exposed, it can feel overwhelming, and the mind looks for escape. Seek death, wanting the experience to end. This can look like I don't want to feel this anymore. I just want this to stop. Why is this so intense? Shall not find it. You cannot skip this stage, because this is where transformation happens. Avoiding it only delays it. Desire to die. This represents wanting relief from the pressure, not physical, emotional, and mental. You may feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and ready for it to be over. Death shall flee. This means the process continues, not to punish you, but to complete what has started. The hard truth. Before this moment, you think you can control how fast this process goes. After this moment, you realize some processes must be fully experienced. Relationship example. After the realization, the emotional waves and the triggers, now you reach a point where you are tired. You are like, I don't want to feel this anymore. Why is this still coming up? I just want to move on already. Seeking escape. You may try to distract yourself. Avoid thinking about it. Rush the healing. But it doesn't fully work. Even if you try to push it away, it still comes back. Not because something is wrong, but because it hasn't fully processed yet. In career, after making a change and stepping into uncertainty, now you want things to feel stable again quickly. You think, I just want everything to settle. Why does this feel so uncertain? I wish I could skip this part. Seeking escape. You may want to go back to comfort. Avoid discomfort or rush into something familiar. But you can't go back. Even if you try, it doesn't feel right anymore because you've already changed. Religion example. After shifting beliefs, questioning everything, and processing new understanding, you may want the old certainty back. You think, I just want to feel sure again. Why does everything feel unclear now? This used to be simpler. Seeking escape. You may feel tempted to go back to old beliefs. Stop questioning and avoid deeper understanding. But you can't unsee. Even if you try, it doesn't fully work because you've already seen something deeper. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation cannot be rushed or skipped. What is being exposed, processed, and understood must be completed. There are moments when growth feels heavy, when clarity feels uncomfortable, when the process feels long, and you just want it to be over. The discomfort, the intensity, the feeling of wanting it to stop is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is changing. And even if you try to escape it, it will continue, not to overwhelm you, but to complete you. Because what is unfolding within you is not here to stay incomplete. Verse 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. Shapes of locusts, the form these patterns take. As horses prepared for battle, ready, aggressive, forceful thoughts or reactions. Crowns like gold, appear valuable, justified or right. Faces of men, feel personal, logical, and believable. We've already seen patterns rising, becoming active, and creating intensity. Now you begin to recognize their nature. These patterns are not random. They appear convincing. What this reveals, this is not just about patterns existing. It's about how they present themselves. When these thoughts or reactions come up, they don't look obviously wrong. They look valid. Horses prepared for battle. This represents thoughts ready to act. They are quick, reactive, and forceful. So these patterns come with intensity and urgency. Examples: I need to respond right now. I can't let this go. I have to act on this feeling. Crowns like gold. They appear justified, not obviously harmful. They look right. You may think, I'm right to feel this way. This makes sense. This is justified. Faces of men. This represents familiarity and logic. So these patterns feel like you. They don't feel external. They feel personal. You may think, this is just how I think. This is who I am. The hard truth. Before this moment, you think these thoughts are simply you. After this moment, you begin to see them as patterns. Relationship example. After emotional processing and trigger surfacing, your thoughts feel strong and convincing. You may think, I need to tell them how I feel again. I can't just leave it like this. They need to understand me. The urgency. You feel the need to act immediately. The justification. You tell yourself, I'm right for feeling this way. The personal feel. It feels like this is your genuine response. But here's the insight. Not every strong thought needs action. In career, after stepping into change and facing uncertainty, now your thoughts feel reasonable but limiting. You think, maybe I should go back. This is too risky. I should choose something safer. The urgency. You feel the need to fix the discomfort quickly. The justification. You tell yourself, this is the smart decision. The personal feel. It feels like this is your true reasoning. But here's the insight. Not every logical thought is aligned with your growth. Religion example. After shifting beliefs and gaining new understanding, old thoughts return in a convincing way. You think, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should go back. This new understanding feels uncertain. The urgency. You feel the need to return to certainty. The justification. You tell yourself, this is safer. The personal feel. It feels like this is your true belief. But here's the insight. Not every familiar thought is truth. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals, not all thoughts that feel real, urgent, and justified are aligned with truth. Just because something feels strong, logical, and personal doesn't mean it is true. What rises, what feels urgent, what feels justified may not be what is aligned. Because patterns can feel powerful, convincing, and even personal until you learn to see them clearly. And once you see them, you no longer react the same way. Verse 8. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. Hair of women represents emotional sensitivity, influence, and attraction. Teeth of lions represents aggressive, consuming, overpowering force. Verse 7 shows these patterns look convincing. Now you see how they feel and how they act. These patterns are not just thoughts. They carry emotion and intensity. What this reveals, this is not just mental, this is emotional influence. When these patterns are active, they don't just make you think, they make you feel strongly. Hair as the hair of women. Hair represents influence and emotional pull. This means these patterns draw you in emotionally. They can feel attractive, familiar, and emotionally engaging. You may feel pulled towards certain thoughts, emotionally connected to them, or influenced by them. They don't feel neutral. Teeth of lions. Teeth represents what consumes or breaks down. Lions represent strength, dominance, and intensity. So this becomes, these patterns can feel overpowering and consuming. They may take over your thoughts, dominate your emotions, and feel difficult to ignore. The hard truth. Before this moment, you think you are just thinking or feeling normally. After this moment, you realize these patterns have emotional influence and intensity. Relationship example. After clarity, emotional release, and seeing patterns, you feel pulled emotionally again. The emotional pull. You may feel missing them, remembering the good times, and feeling drawn to reconnect. You think, maybe I should check on them. Maybe it wasn't that bad. The consuming force. At the same time, The thoughts feel strong and hard to ignore. You may keep thinking about them, feel emotionally overwhelmed, and struggle to detach in the moment. The insight: just because you feel pulled doesn't mean you should go back. In career, after making a shift and stepping into change, you feel emotionally pulled toward comfort. The emotional pull. You may feel nostalgia for your old role. Hold on, please. Sorry about that. You may feel nostalgia for your old role, comfort in what you knew, and desire for stability. You think, maybe I should go back. At least it was predictable. The consuming force. At the same time, the thoughts feel intense and persistent. You may overthink your decision, feel pressure to return to what's familiar, or feel overwhelmed. The insight: just because something feels comfortable doesn't mean it's aligned. Religion example. After shifting beliefs and gaining clarity, now old beliefs feel emotionally comforting. The emotional pull. You may feel drawn back to familiar teachings, comfort in old ways of thinking, and emotional attachment to what you knew. You think, it was simpler before. I felt more certain. The consuming force. At the same time, the thoughts feel strong and persuasive. You may feel tempted to go back, feel overwhelmed by the new understanding, or struggle with uncertainty. The insight: just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's truth. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals patterns influence both your emotions and your intensity of response. They don't just exist, they pull, influence, and consume. Not everything that pulls you is meant for you. What feels emotionally strong, familiar, and consuming may not be what is aligned. Because patterns don't just appear in your mind, they pull at your emotions and try to hold your attention. But once you see that, you don't respond the same way. Verse 9. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. Breastplates of iron, protection, resistance, difficulty in breaking through. Sound of wings, constant mental noise or activity. Chariots of many horses, strong momentum, force, intensity. Running to battle, persistent, aggressive pattern activation. Verse 8 shows these patterns affect emotions and feel consuming. Now you see why they feel so strong. These patterns are not just emotional or convincing, they are reinforced. What this reveals: this is not weakness. This is conditioning. Patterns that have been repeated, reinforced, and practiced over time feel strong, protected, and difficult to break. Breastplates of iron. This represents resistance. So this means these patterns don't break easily. You may notice even when you see them. Even when you understand them, they still show up because they've been built over time. Sound of wings. This represents constant mental activity. So this becomes, it can feel loud in your mind. You may experience constant thoughts, repeated ideas, and mental noise. Chariots running to battle. This represents momentum and force. So this means these patterns don't come gently, they come strongly. They may feel urgent, overwhelming, and fast-moving. The hard truth. Before this moment, you expect patterns to disappear once you see them. After this moment, you realize they take time to weaken. Relationship example. After clarity, emotional processing, and awareness, the thoughts still come. The resistance. You may think, I know this isn't right, but I still feel something. Why is this still affecting me? The noise. Your mind may feel loud, repetitive, and filled with thought about them. The momentum. The feelings may come suddenly, strongly, and in waves. Just because it's still showing up doesn't mean it's still in control. In career, after making a change and stepping into growth, old patterns still appear. The resistance. You may think, I know I outgrew this, but part of me still doubts. The noise. You may experience overthinking, questioning your decisions, and mental pressure. The momentum. The thoughts may feel strong, urgent, and repetitive. The insight. Patterns don't disappear instantly. They lose power over time. Religion example. After shifting beliefs and gaining clarity, old thoughts still show up. The resistance. You may think, I understand this differently now, but the old thoughts still come. The noise. You may feel internal dialogue, questioning, and mental back and forth. The momentum. The thoughts may feel intense, persistent, and hard to ignore. The insight. Conditioning takes time to fully release. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals patterns feel strong because they have been reinforced, but they are not permanent. Just because something feels strong doesn't mean it will stay. What feels loud, strong, and resistant is not unbreakable. It has been repeated, been reinforced, and been practiced. But now it is being seen. And once something is seen, it begins to lose its power. Verse 10. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. Tails like scorpions. Residual effects. afterthoughts, and lingering influence. Stings in their tails, sudden emotional triggers that come unexpectedly. Power to hurt, ability to cause discomfort, not distraction. 5 months, limited duration, temporary process. Verses 7 to 9 show these patterns look convincing. They feel emotional, and they seem strong and reinforced. Now, you see how they continue, but also where they end. These patterns don't always show up directly, they linger. What this reveals: this is not about constant overwhelm. This is about lingering influence. Even after clarity, awareness, and understanding, patterns may still appear suddenly, trigger emotions, and show up unexpectedly. Tails like scorpions. The tail represents what comes after. So this means even after the main pattern fades, traces remain. These are afterthoughts, emotional echoes, and subtle reminders. Stings in their tails. This represents sudden triggers. You may feel something random reminds you. An emotion comes out of nowhere. A thought appears unexpectedly, quick, sharp, then it passes. Power to hurt. They can affect you, but not define you. This is discomfort and emotional response, not control or distraction. 5 months. Again, this has a limit. It does not last forever or stay the same intensity. It fades over time. The hard truth. Before this moment, you expect complete silence once you understand. After this moment, you realize healing includes lingering moments. Relationship example. After clarity, emotional release, and moving forward, now it shows up in small ways. Detail. You may be going about your day, and suddenly a memory comes up. A song reminds you. Something triggers a thought. This thing. You feel a quick emotional hit, a brief sadness, or a moment of reflection, then it passes. The insight. It doesn't mean you are back at the beginning. It means there are still traces being released. In career, after making a shift and growing into something new, old thoughts appear occasionally. Detail. You may think, what if I stayed? What if that path worked out? Distinct. You feel a brief moment of doubt, a quick emotional reaction, then you return to clarity. The insight. Growth doesn't mean zero thoughts. It means different responses. Religion example. After shifting beliefs and gaining clarity, old ideas may still appear briefly. Detail. You may think, what if the old way was right? Distinct. You feel a moment of uncertainty, a quick emotional reaction, then you recognize it and move on. The insight. You don't live there anymore. You just pass through it. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals, even after transformation, traces may remain, but they no longer control you. Healing is not never feeling anything again. It is feeling it and not being controlled by it. What lingers, what appears suddenly, what still tries to touch you, is not your identity anymore. It is a trace, an echo, a passing moment. And even when it stings, it doesn't stay, because you are no longer the person who lived in it. You are now the one who sees it and moves beyond it. Verse 11, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek has his name Apollyon. A king over them, a governing force behind the patterns. Angel of the bottomless pit, authority rooted in the subconscious. Abaddon or Apollyon, destroyer, one that breaks down or consumes. Verses 1 to 10 show the subconscious opening, patterns rising, thoughts becoming active, emotions being triggered, and lingering effects. Now, you see what has been behind all of it. This is not just random thoughts. There is a root influence. What this reveals, this is not about fear. This is about understanding the source. All these patterns, repetitive thoughts, emotional triggers, and internal reactions are not separate. They are connected. A king over them. This represents a central governing pattern or mindset. Not many separate issues, one root influencing many expressions. Angel of the bottomless pit. This means this root comes from the subconscious. It is deep, unseen for a long time, and influencing everything beneath awareness. Abaddon or Apollyon, the destroyer. This is powerful. This root pattern destroys clarity, peace, and alignment, not physically, internally. It can show up as fear, insecurity, distorted thinking, or limiting beliefs. The hard truth. Before this moment, you see many different problems. After this moment, you realize they come from one root. Relationship example. After seeing patterns, feeling emotions, and noticing triggers, now you see the root. You realize this wasn't just about them. There's something deeper in me. The king. It could be fear of abandonment, need for validation, or belief that love must be earned. The connection. Now you see why you stayed, why you tolerated certain things, and why you reacted the way you did. It all traces back to one root. In career, after changing direction, processing thoughts, and noticing patterns, now you see the deeper driver. You realize, I wasn't just choosing jobs. I was being guided by something deeper. The king. It could be fear of failure, need for security, or desire for approval. The connection. Now you see why you stayed in certain roles, why you avoided risk, and why you made certain decisions. It all connects to one root. Religion example. After shifting beliefs, questioning understanding, and seeing patterns, now you see the root. You realize This wasn't just doctrine. This was something deeper. The king. It could be fear-based thinking, dependence on external authority, or belief in separation. The connection. Now you see why you believe certain things, why fear was present, why certain ideas felt powerful. It all came from one root. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals many patterns can come from one central mindset or belief. When you identify the root, you don't just manage the patterns, you understand them. What once felt like many thoughts, many emotions, and many struggles are now revealed as one source expressing itself in many ways. And once you see the source, everything connected to it begins to lose its power, because you are no longer reacting to the surface. You are now aware of the root. Verse 12. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. One woe is past. One phase of intense transformation is complete. Behold, pay attention. Recognize this moment. Two woes more, deeper layers still ahead. Everything from the opening of the abyss, the rising of patterns, the activation of thoughts, the emotional triggers, the lingering effects, and the root being revealed, that was one phase. And now it is complete. What this reveals, this is not the end. This is a checkpoint. A moment where you recognize what you've seen, acknowledge what has shifted, and understand what has been revealed. One woe is past. This means you have already gone through something significant, not small, deep. You have faced patterns, felt emotions, and seen the root. Behold, this is important. It's saying pause and recognize it, because many move on without realizing they have already changed. Two woes more. This is not to create fear. It is to create awareness. This means there are still deeper layers, not because something is wrong, but because transformation is progressive. The hard truth. Before this moment, you may feel like the process should be over. After this moment, you realize growth happens in stages. Relationship example. After everything, the realization, the emotional process, the triggers, and the root. Now you pause. You realize, I don't think the same anymore. I don't react the same way. I see things differently now. The awareness. Even if you still feel things at times, you are not where you were before. The next layer, and you sense, there's more I'm still learning about myself. In career, after making decisions, processing change, and facing internal patterns, now you recognize the shift. You realize, I'm not settling the same way. I'm thinking differently now. I'm approaching things with more awareness. The awareness, even if things are still unfolding, you have already changed. The next layer, you sense there's more clarity coming. Religion example. After questioning beliefs, shifting understanding, and seeing deeper meaning, now you pause and reflect. You realize, I don't see scripture the same way. I'm no longer operating from fear. I understand things differently now. The awareness. Even if you are still learning, you are not who you were before. The next layer, you sense there's more truth to uncover. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation happens in stages, and each stage builds on the last. Take a moment to recognize how far you've already come. You have seen, felt, faced, and understood. And even if some things still linger, even if some questions remain, you are not the same. This phase is complete. And what comes next will take you even deeper into understanding. Verse 13. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God. Sixth angel sounded. A deeper phase of transformation begins. Voice, inner directive or clear instruction. Four horns, authority, power from all directions, complete authority. Golden altar, place of refinement, alignment, truth before God. The previous phase exposed patterns, revealed the root, and brought awareness. Now, something new happens. Release is commanded. This is not random change. This is intentional transformation. What this reveals, this is not about more confusion. This is about movement. Up to this point, you saw, you felt, you understood. Now something within you says, it's time. I heard a voice. This represents inner clarity, not external noise, internal knowing. You begin to sense, I can't stay the same anymore. Something has to shift. It's time to move differently. Four horns of the altar. Horns represents authority and power. Four represents completeness, all directions. So this means this instruction comes with full authority, not doubt, certainty. Golden altar before God. This represents a place of alignment with truth. Gold equals refined. Altar equals transformation. So this shift is coming from your highest awareness, not fear, truth. The hard truth. Before this moment, you were observing and processing. After this moment, you are being moved to act at a deeper level. Relationship example. After seeing patterns, feeling emotions, and understanding the root, now you feel something different. Not confusion, clarity with authority. You are like, I can't stay here anymore. This is not aligned for me. It's time to fully let this go. The inner voice. This is not emotional reaction. It's deep knowing. The authority. You don't second guess as much. You don't go back and forth. You know. In career, after processing everything, and understanding your path. Now you feel a clear direction. You are like, I need to move forward. I can't stay where I've been. It's time to step into something new. The inner voice, not pressure, clarity. The authority, you don't overthink as much or stay stuck. You move with intention. Religion example. After shifting beliefs and understanding deeper truth, now you stand in it. You are like, this is what I now understand. I can't go back to what I used to believe. This is truth for me. The inner voice, not confusion, conviction. The authority, you don't rely on external validation or feel the need to prove. You simply know. The deeper revelation, this verse reveals, there comes a point where transformation moves from awareness to decisive alignment. There is a moment when you stop asking, what should I do? And you begin to feel, I already know. The voice, the knowing, the clarity within you is not random. It is formed through everything you've seen, refined through everything you felt, and aligned with truth. And now it speaks, not to confuse you, but to move you. Verse 14, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Loose, meaning release, let go, allow to move. Four angels, forces or patterns in all areas, complete influence. Bound, restricted, held in place, not fully expressed. Great river Euphrates, the flow of life. Deep internal currents, foundational patterns. Verse 13 showed the voice of authority. Now the instruction is given. Release what has been held. This is not about holding things together anymore. It is about letting things move. What this reveals, this is not chaos. This is necessary release. Things that were suppressed, contained, and controlled are now allowed to surface and move fully. Loose. This represents letting go of control, not forcing, allowing. This may feel like things coming up strongly, emotions moving freely, and patterns becoming fully visible. Four angels. This represents all areas of influence, not just one part of you. Everything connected to this root is affected. Bound. This means these patterns were already there, but restrained. They were hidden, controlled, and not fully seen. Now they are released. Great river Euphrates. A river represents flow. This specific river represents deep internal patterns that have been shaping your life. So this becomes what has been shaping your flow is now being released. The hard truth. Before this moment, you may try to control or manage what you feel. After this moment, you realize some things must be fully released to be transformed. Relationship example. After understanding everything, seeing the root, and feeling the emotions, Now you stop holding back. The release. You allow yourself to feel everything fully. Accept what happened and let go of what you were holding on to. No more suppressing. No more controlling or pretending. You let it move through you. The flow. You may cry, reflect deeply, and process everything honestly. The insight. This is not losing control. This is releasing what needs to be released. In career, after realizing your direction and processing the shift, now you fully release the old identity. The release. You let go of the old role, the old mindset, the old limitations. The flow. You allow yourself to move forward fully, embrace the new direction, and stop holding on to the past. The insight. You can't move forward while holding on to what you've outgrown. Religion example. After questioning, understanding, and seeing the root, now you let go completely. The release. You release fear-based beliefs, dependence on external authority, and old interpretations that no longer align. The flow. You allow new understanding, deeper clarity, and personal connection to truth. The insight. Transformation requires full release, not partial. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals what has been held within you must be released for transformation to complete. There comes a point when holding on is no longer growth. What has been contained, suppressed, and controlled is now released, allowed, and flowing, not to overwhelm you, but to free you, because what is released can finally be transformed. Verse 15. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day, and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. Four angels loosed, full release across all areas. Prepared. This process was already set in motion. Hour, day, month, year. Perfect timing, not random. Slay, remove, end, bring to completion. Third part of men, aspect of the old self or patterns. Verse 14 showed release. Now you see what that release leads to. Removal. Not everything, but what no longer aligns. What this reveals. This is not destruction. This is transformation through removal. When something is exposed, felt, and released, it reaches a point where it cannot continue. Four angels were loosed. This means the release is complete, not partial, fully active. Prepared for an hour, day, month, year. This represents precise timing. This process didn't start randomly and isn't happening too early or too late. It is unfolding exactly when it should. To slay. This is the ending of patterns, not suppression, removal. Third part of men. This represents parts of your identity shaped by those patterns, not your true self, the conditioned self. The hard truth. Before this moment, you may try to hold on to certain parts of yourself. After this moment, you realize some parts must go. Relationship example. After the release and the emotional process, now something within you changes permanently. What is slain? You no longer tolerate the same behavior, over-explain yourself, or chase understanding. Identity shift. The version of you that stayed too long, ignored your needs, and accepted less begins to disappear. The insight. You are not losing yourself. You are losing what was never aligned. In career, after releasing the old path and stepping into clarity, now you don't operate the same way anymore. What is slain? You no longer settle for less, avoid growth, or stay in misalignment. The identity shift. The version of you that played small, feared change, and avoided risk begins to fade. The insight. Growth requires letting go of who you were. Religion example. After releasing old beliefs and understanding truth, now you don't think the same way anymore. What is slain? You no longer operate from fear, depend on external validation, and accept beliefs without understanding. The identity shift. The version of you that followed blindly, feared consequences, and depended on others for truth begins to disappear. The insight. You are not losing faith. You are refining it. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation includes the removal of what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Sometimes growth feels like loss because parts of you are leaving. What is being removed? What is being ended? What is no longer continuing is not your true self. It is the conditioned version, the learned patterns, and the misaligned identity. And as it fades, you don't become less. You become more of who you truly are. Verse 16. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. Army of horsemen, active forces of transformation or patterns in motion. Number, measure of scale and magnitude. 200,000, countless, vast, beyond calculation. I heard the number, awareness of the extent of the process. Verse 15 showed removal of patterns. Now you see how extensive this process really is. This is not just one pattern, one belief, or one behavior. These are many layers being transformed. What this reveals. This is not small change. This is deep multi-layered transformation. When you begin to see clearly, feel deeply, and release fully, it affects many areas of your life. Army of horsemen. This represents active transformation in motion. These are patterns being removed, thoughts being reshaped, reactions being changed, not passive, active. 200,000. This is symbolic. Too many to count. This means you are not just changing one thing. You are changing many interconnected layers. I heard the number. This represents awareness of the scale. You begin to realize this is bigger than I thought. This is affecting more areas than I expected. The hard truth. Before this moment, you think you are dealing with one issue. After this moment, you realize everything is connected. Relationship example. After the breakup, the emotional process, the triggers, and the root being revealed. Now you begin to see the bigger picture. You are like, wait, this didn't just happen once. I've been loving the same way every time. This pattern has been repeating. The army. You start to notice you didn't enforce boundaries. You ignored red flags. You gave too much of yourself. You silenced your truth, not just in one relationship, in many. The realization. You realize, I didn't want to appear difficult. I thought love meant giving everything. I denied myself while giving them the best. And then it goes deeper. The root behind it. You begin to see how you were taught to love, what you saw growing up, the dysfunction you normalized. You realize, maybe this is what I thought love was. The scale. Now it hits you. This is not about them. This is about a pattern that has been shaping my choices. The hard truth. This is where it becomes real. I've been showing up the same way, expecting a different result. The deeper insight. You are not just healing from a person. You are transforming your entire understanding of love. Sometimes you don't realize it's a pattern until you see it repeat. What you thought was different people, different situations, and different experiences was actually the same pattern wearing different faces. And once you see that, you stop asking, why does this keep happening to me? And you begin to ask, what within me has been repeating this? And that question is where your transformation truly begins. In career, after the shift, the decisions and the emotional processing, now you begin to connect everything. You are like, wait, this isn't just this job. I've been making the same kind of choices. This pattern has been following me. The army. You start to notice you kept choosing stability over fulfillment. You stayed in places longer than you should have. You avoided taking risk. You played small, even when you knew you had more. Not just once, over and over again. The realization, you realize I didn't want to fail. I wanted to feel secure. I thought this was the smart thing to do. And then it goes deeper. The roots behind it. You begin to see how you were taught to think about success, the pressure to be stable, the fear of uncertainty. You realize maybe I wasn't choosing what I wanted. I was choosing what felt safe. The scale. Now it hits you. This is not about this one role. This is about how I've been approaching my entire career. The hard truth. This is where it becomes real. I've been limiting myself while thinking I was being responsible. The deeper insight. You are not just changing jobs. You are transforming how you choose your path. Sometimes, what feels like playing it safe is actually holding you back. What you thought was different jobs, different opportunities, different situations was actually the same pattern guiding your choices. And once you see that, you stop asking, why am I not fulfilled? And you begin to ask, what has been guiding my decisions? And that question changes everything. Religion example. After shifting your understanding, questioning what you were taught, and gaining clarity, now you begin to see the pattern. You are like, wait, I've been thinking this way for a long time. This wasn't just one belief. This has shaped everything. The army. You start to notice you operated from fear. You depended on external validation. You accepted things without questioning. You followed what you were taught without understanding. Not just once, in many areas of your spiritual life. The realization. You realize, I thought this was truth. I believed this without fully seeing it. I was repeating what I was taught, and then it goes deeper. The root behind it. You begin to see how you were introduced to faith, the fear-based teachings you received, the environment that shaped your beliefs. You realize, maybe I wasn't seeing truth. I was seeing what I was taught to see. The skill. Now it hits you. This is not about one doctrine. This is about my entire framework of understanding. The hard truth. This is where it becomes real. I've been operating from a mindset I never questioned. The deeper insight. You are not just changing beliefs. You are transforming how you understand truth itself. Sometimes, what you call truth is simply what you were taught to believe. What you thought was different teachings, different interpretations, different understandings was actually the same pattern shaping your perception. And once you see that, you stop asking, what is the right belief? And you begin to ask, what has been shaping how I believe? And that question leads you into true understanding. Verse 17, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of the mouth issued fire and smoke and brimstone. Horses, movement, active forces within you. Those who sat on them, what is directing or controlling that movement? Breastplates, fire, jacinth, brimstone, layers of protection and intensity, emotion, thought, expression. Heads of lions, dominant, bold, powerful mental direction. Mouths releasing fire, smoke, and brimstone, expression through words, thought, and emotional output. Verse 16 showed the magnitude of transformation. Now you see how it moves through you. This is not passive. This is active transformation. It affects how you think, how you feel, and how you express. What this reveals: this is not just internal awareness. This is internal movement becoming external expression. Everything happening within you begins to show up in your words, your reactions, and your actions. Horses, movement. This represents things in motion within you, not static, active change. Those who sat on them. This represents what is directing your actions. Now the question becomes, what is leading you? Old patterns or new awareness? Breastplates of fire, jacinth, and brimstone. This represents layers. Fire represents emotional intensity and passion. Jacinth represents thought patterns and mental processing. Brimstone represents expression and impact. So this becomes transformation is happening across emotion, thought, and expression. Heads of lions. This represents dominant thinking. Your thoughts now feel strong, feel bold, and feel decisive. Mouth releasing fire, smoke, and brimstone. Fire represents direct expression. Smoke represents confusion or processing. Brimstone represents impact or consequence. So this becomes what's happening within you is now coming out through your words and actions. The hard truth. Before this moment, transformation felt internal. After this moment, it becomes visible in how you live. Relationship example. After seeing the pattern, understanding the root, and processing everything, now you show up differently. Movement. You don't respond the same way or tolerate the same behavior. Dominant thinking. Your mindset becomes, I deserve better. I'm not accepting this anymore. Expression. You now speak clearly. Set boundaries and express your truth. The shift. Even if you feel something, you don't act from the old pattern. In career, after realizing your patterns, seeing the root, and understanding your direction, now your behavior changes. Movement, you take action. You make decisions and move forward intentionally. Dominant thinking, you think, I'm capable of more. I'm choosing alignment. Expression, you communicate differently, pursue opportunities, and step into new spaces. The shift, even if fear shows up, it doesn't control your actions. Religion example. After shifting beliefs and seeing deeper truth and understanding the roots, now your expression changes. Movement. You explore deeper, engage differently, and think independently. Dominant thinking. You think, this is deeper than what I was taught. I see this differently now. Expression. You speak from understanding. You share insights. You no longer repeat blindly. The shift. Even if uncertainty appears, you don't go back to blind belief. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation is not just internal, it expresses itself through your life. You don't just think differently, you live differently. What has been revealed within you, processed within you, and understood within you is now expressed through you, lived through you, and seen in your actions. Because true transformation does not stay hidden, it moves, it speaks, it shows through you. Verse 18. By these three was the third part of men killed by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. By these three, threefold process: fire, smoke, brimstone. Fire, clear truth and direct exposure. Smoke, confusion that leads to deeper understanding. Brimstone, impact, consequence, purification. Killed, ended, removed, no longer sustained. Third part of men, aspect of the old self or conditioned identity. From their mouths, through expression, realization, and lived experience. Verse 17 showed transformation in motion. Now you see what that transformation does. It removes what cannot align with truth. Not forcefully, naturally. What this reveals, this is not distraction, this is purification. Through truth, fire, processing, smoke, and lived experience, brimstone, something within you ends. Fire, this represents direct truth. The moment you clearly see, this is not aligned, this is not who I am. Smoke, this represents the process of understanding, the confusion, the questioning, the reflection that leads to clarity. Brimstone, this represents the impact of living that truth. When you act differently, choose differently, and respond differently. The third part was killed. This means something in you can no longer exist. Not suppressed, removed. From their mouths, this is powerful. Transformation happens through expression. Not just thinking, living it. The hard truth. Before this moment, you may try to hold on to parts of your old self. After this moment, those parts cannot continue. Relationship example. After seeing the pattern, understanding the roots, and processing everything, now something in you ends. Fire, truth. You clearly see, I was overgiving. I was silencing myself. I was ignoring what I deserved. Smoke, processing. You go through reflection, emotional processing, and understanding your behavior. Brimstone, living it. Now you set boundaries, speak your truth, and choose differently. What is killed? The version of you that accepted less, stayed quiet, and overextended yourself cannot exist anymore. In career, after seeing your patterns, understanding your choices, and processing everything, now something shifts permanently. Fire, truth. You see, I've been limiting myself. I've been choosing safety over growth. Smoke, processing. You reflect on your decisions, your fears, and your mindset. Brimstone, living it. Now you take bolder steps. Pursue what aligns and stop settling. What is killed? The version of you that played small, avoided risk, and settled for less cannot continue. Religion example. After shifting beliefs, understanding deeper truth, and processing everything, now something ends. Fire, truth. You see, I was operating from fear. I accepted things without understanding. Smoke, processing. You reflect on your beliefs, your understanding, and your perspective. brimstone leaving it. Now you think independently, understand deeply, and stand in what you see. What is killed? The version of you that believed blindly, operated from fear, and depended on external authority cannot exist anymore. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation removes what cannot align with truth through awareness, processing, and lived action. You don't have to force change. Truth once seen and lived removes what is not aligned. What once felt normal, felt acceptable, and felt like you is now seen clearly, processed deeply, and lived differently. And because of that, it can no longer remain. Not because you fought it, but because you outgrew it. And in that space, you don't lose yourself, you find your true self. Verse 19, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents and had heads, and with them they do hurt. Power in their mouth, influence through expression. These are words, thoughts, communication. Power in their tails, influence through lingering patterns and past conditioning. Tails like serpent, subtle, deceptive, recurring thought patterns. Heads in the tails, these patterns still carry direction and influence. Do hurt, cause discomfort, not distraction. Verse 18 showed what is removed. Now you understand how influence works before and after transformation. This verse explains where the power was and how it operated. What this reveals, this is not about fear. This is about awareness of influence. These patterns had power in two ways. In their mouth, expression. What you say, think, and repeat reinforces patterns. This includes internal dialogue, spoken words, and repeated thoughts. What you say shapes your reality. In their tails, lingering influence. Past patterns still try to influence you. These are old habits, past conditioning, and familiar ways of thinking. Even after change, they may still appear. Tails like serpents. Serpents represent subtle influence. This means these patterns are not always obvious. They can show up as quiet thoughts, small suggestions, and subtle shifts in thinking. Heads in the tails. Even lingering patterns still carry direction, meaning they can still try to guide your thinking, but now you can see them. The hard truth. Before this moment, you may not realize how much influence thought and patterns have. After this moment, you become aware of how influence works. Relationship example. Before, you spoke from emotion. You thought from past experiences. You reacted without awareness. Power in the mouth. You may have said, maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I should just accept this, reinforcing the pattern. Power in the tail. You had lingering beliefs about love, past conditioning, and emotional patterns guiding your choices. Subtle influence. It didn't feel obvious. It felt normal. The shift, now you see it. You don't speak the same way, think the same way, and accept the same things. In career, before, your thinking shaped your choices. Your words reinforced your direction. Power in the mouth. You may have said, I'm not ready yet. This is too risky, reinforcing limitation. Power in detail. You had fear-based thinking, conditioning around stability, and past experiences shaping decisions. These are influencing your path. Subtle influence. It felt like logic, not limitation. The shift. Now you recognize it. You choose differently. You speak differently. You think differently. Religion example. Before, you repeated what you were taught. You thought within a certain framework. Power in the mouth. You may have said, this is just how it is. I have to believe this, reinforcing belief. Power in detail. You had inherited beliefs, conditioning, and fear-based thinking shaping your understanding. Subtle influence. It didn't feel like control. It felt like truth. The shift. Now you see it clearly. You question, understand, and choose what aligns. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals influence operates through what you repeat and what you carry from the past. What you say, what you think, what you carry shapes your experience. The power was never just in the situation, in the people, or in the environment. It was in what was being reinforced and what was being carried. And now you see both. So you don't just change what you do, you change what you say, what you believe, and what you carry forward. And that changes everything. Verse 20. And the rest of the men, which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. The rest of the men, aspects that remain unchanged, not killed by the plagues, not removed through transformation, repented not, refused to change perception or direction, works of their hands, patterns they created and sustained, worship, what they give attention, value, and energy to, devils, distorted thinking, false inner narratives, idols, false sources of identity, security, and truth, cannot see, hear, or walk, no true awareness, understanding, or growth. Everything up to this point has shown exposure, awareness, release, transformation, and removal. Now, you see another reality. Not everything that is revealed is released, because transformation is not automatic, it is chosen. What this reveals, this is not judgment, this is resistance. Even after seeing the pattern, understanding the root, and feeling the truth, there can still be a decision to hold on. Repented not. Repentance here means to change how you see and therefore how you live. So this means they saw clearly but chose not to shift. Works of their hands. These represent patterns they continue to maintain. Even after awareness, they repeat the same behaviors, think the same thoughts, reinforce the same cycles by choice. The idols, this is where it goes deeper. These are internal attachments. Gold, what you value most. Status, relationships, money, and image. This is what gives me worth. Silver, validation and approval, needing acceptance, seeking affirmation, and tying worth to others. I need others to confirm me. Brass or bronze, performance and effort, proving yourself, overworking, earning worth. I must earn my value. Stone, rigid beliefs, fixed thinking. This is just how it is. Resistance to change. I won't see differently. Wood, foundational conditioning, childhood beliefs, cultural programming, and inherited thinking. This is what I was taught. They cannot see, hear, and walk. This is the core truth. These attachments don't bring clarity, see. They don't bring understanding, hear. And they don't lead to growth, walk. Yet they are still held onto. Relationship example. After seeing the pattern and understanding the root, now you still have a choice. The resistance. You may still ignore red flags, overgive, and silence your truth, even though you know better. The idols in action. Gold. This relationship defines me. Silver. Needing their validation. Brass. Proving your love. Stone. This is just how love is. Wood. What you learned growing up. The result. You repeat the cycle. You stay in the same pattern. You don't move forward. The insight. Awareness without action keeps the pattern alive. In career, after realizing your potential and seeing your patterns, now you still choose comfort. The resistance. You may stay where you are, avoid growth, and ignore your calling. The idols in action. Gold, status, and money. Silver, recognition. Brass, proving your worth. Stone, rigid idea of success. Wood, upbringing around safe choices. The result, you remain stuck. You repeat cycles. You don't fully grow. Knowing your path is not the same as walking it. Religion example. After understanding deeper meaning and questioning beliefs, now you still hold on. The resistance. You may return to old thinking, avoid deeper truth, and stay in familiarity. The idols in action. Gold, being right. Silver, approval from others. Brass, performance-based faith. Stone, rigid doctrine. Wood, inherited beliefs. The result, you limit your growth. You stop your expansion and remain in the same framework. The insight, truth must be embraced, not just seen. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals transformation is available, but not automatic. You can see, understand, and feel, and still choose not to change. Awareness opens the door, but choice is what walks you through it. What is revealed, what is understood, what is made clear will not change you unless you choose it. Because even after everything, you can still hold on to the pattern, return to the familiar, worship what cannot sustain you. But the moment you choose differently, everything begins to shift. Verse 21. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Repented not. Refused to change perception and behavior. Murders, destructive thoughts, inner harm, killing truth within. Sorceries, illusions, manipulation, distorted perception, fornication, misalignment, unhealthy attachments, mixing what doesn't align. Thefts, taking what is not aligned, lack mindset, and self-betrayal. Verse 20 showed attachment to idols, beliefs, validation, conditioning. Now this verse reveals how those attachments express themselves. This is not random. These are the patterns people continue to live out. Even after awareness, understanding, and exposure, they still choose the same behaviors. What this reveals, this is not about condemnation. This is about unconscious repetition. When patterns are not released, they continue to show up as actions, choices, and behaviors. Murders, destroying what is true within you. This is not physical. This is internal destruction. This looks like silencing your truth, ignoring your intuition, and choosing what harms you. You kill what you know is right within you. The Genesis 4 pattern. Cain killing Abel. You kill what you know is right within you. Sorceries, living in illusion. This represents distorted perception. It looks like justifying unhealthy situations, believing illusions, and seeing things the way you want to see them. You remain in a false version of reality. Fornication, misalignment. This is not just physical. This is connecting to what is not aligned. This looks like staying in unhealthy relationships, aligning with wrong environments, and choosing what contradicts your truth. You attach to what doesn't match who you are becoming. That's fornication. Misalignment. Not sexual immorality. Thefts, taken from yourself. This is self-betrayal. This looks like settling for less, choosing lack, and giving your energy where it's not valued. You steal from your own potential and worth. The hard truth. Before this moment, you think the issue is external. After this moment, you realize the pattern continues through choices. Relationship example. After seeing everything clearly and understanding your patterns, now you still have a choice. Murders, you silence your needs. You ignore your intuition. You accept what hurts you. Sorceries, you make excuses for them. You believe things will change. You ignore reality. Fornication, you stay connected to what isn't aligned and hold on to unhealthy bonds. Thefts, you give your energy away. You settle for less and deny yourself better. The insight, you are not being harmed. You are participating in the pattern. In career, after seeing your potential and understanding your patterns, now you still choose the same cycle. Murders, you ignore your calling. You silence your ambition. Sorceries, you tell yourself limiting stories. You believe you can't do more. Fornication, you stay in misaligned roles and attach to environments that don't serve you. Thefts, you settle, underpay yourself, literally or figuratively. You deny your growth. The insight, your environment doesn't limit you. Your choices do. Religion example. After seeing deeper truth and understanding differently, now you still hold on. Murders, you silence your inner knowing. You ignore deeper understanding. Sorceries, you cling to illusion. You avoid truth and justify old beliefs. Fornication, you stay connected to misaligned teachings. You mix truth with fear. Theft, you limit your growth. You deny your own understanding. You depend on external authority. The insight, truth is not what you see once, it's what you choose to live. The deeper revelation. This verse reveals patterns continue when they are chosen. Even after they are revealed, you can see clearly, understand deeply, and still choose what you've outgrown. Nothing is hidden anymore. You have seen the patterns, understood the root, and felt the truth. Now there's only one thing left: choice. Will you return to what is familiar or move into what is aligned? Because in the end, transformation is not about what is revealed. It is about what is chosen. This completes Revelation 9, the unveiling of the subconscious, the patterns, the roots, the transformation, and the choice. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next teaching.